And thanks for joining us today, friends. On the line are my contributors from SGT Report, Rory and Peter. Good day, gentlemen.
Hello.
I want to thank everybody for joining us for another episode of DOOMER News, where real news meets reality. Guys, have you ever seen a situation in your lifetimes where the world seems to be spinning out of control as quickly as things are spinning out of control right now?
It just seems to be going faster and faster every day.
It's really difficult to keep up with, and then every day I wake up, it's like, well, what am I waking up to?
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's literally hard to keep up, even on a minute-by-minute basis as things change. I'm shocked to see that the president of our own country, the administration, and the politicians in our own country seem to be literally the root of the problem that the world is facing. It seems to be that our nation has become so aggressive, so unbound by law, so unbound by honor, that it is the rest of the world, including the Pope. Here's a headline that was published over at Times Swampland. We posted it at SGT Report as Pope versus Obama. Pope Francis tweets against a U.S. attack in Syria, writes Putin personally and G20 leaders a letter urging the entire world to oppose military intervention in Syria. Obama is now aligned against literally the whole world, and along with Obama, his skull and bonesman henchman, John Kerry. What do you guys make of these war drums that just keep beating and beating? Pretty repulsive, huh?
Very repulsive. And when you have the Pope coming out, which I'm really not a big fan, but that's another story, calling out Obama just like the rest of the world. I mean, everybody in the rest of the world looks sane, and our so-called leadership looks completely inept and like a pack of liars. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, they are out of control.
Yeah, Rory, what you're saying too, it kind of cracked me up, and I never thought I'd see the day where I trust the Russians more than I trust our own government.
Exactly.
But Putin was saying how you can't trust Kerry, you can't trust Obama this past week, and how far we've fallen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he called him a liar. I mean,
and rightly so. Rightly so. Because the whole world can see the reality, right? Where real news meets reality. The whole world can see what's going on here. John Kerry is lying. What they are purposefully doing is ignoring the 100-page detailed scientific report released by Russia, which shows that the chemical weapons were used by the rebels, not Assad. What they are purposely doing is burying the fact that it is the Western-backed governments, it's the United States, it's Saudi Arabia, it's Great Britain that has been supplying and arming the rebels, right, including Al-Qaeda, to topple Assad. So when we see men, women, and children being murdered, when we see Christians being slaughtered and Muslims and Jews being slaughtered in Syria, most of the time it's not at the hands of Assad, it's at the hands of the rebels who John McCain has met with and who John Kerry backs. That's how repulsive this has become.
Yeah, Sean, this whole past week or so with John Kerry doing his thing, I mean, it reminds me of what Colin Powell was doing 10 plus years ago in front of Congress, getting us into Iraq. And the difference between Kerry and Powell was, I mean, they were both, BS. But, Powell at least had kind of a slick slideshow kind of deal where he was showing, the weapons of mass destruction and everything. And Kerry's just saying, go out and, there's thousands of newspapers that are reporting this. I don't have to prove it. And
yeah, he's citing publicly available sources, which is a hoot because what is that? That's YouTube and that's Mockingbird media sources. And what he will not cite in those publicly available sources is Drudge. He will not cite any of the news coming out of InfoWars. Here's an interesting one that's important to talk about from InfoWars. High-level sources confirm U.S. secret nuke transfer from a Texas base with no paper trail, no signatures. And then, ironically, about the same day or a day after, the traitor to the Constitution, Senator Lindsey Graham, conveniently warns of a domestic nuke strike just after this mysterious, unprecedented Texas nukes transfer. Now, that report from Anthony Gucciardi and Alex Jones, will really set you back on your heels, right? Because Lindsey Graham, who is clearly a neocon along with John McCain, who is one of the foremost people beating the drums of more unconstitutional war, this time in Syria, bombing men, women, and children. And he's warning South Carolinians about the threat of, quote, a terrorist nuclear attack. Now, how ironic is that, as nukes reportedly have disappeared from a Texas military base?
Well, not only have they disappeared, but Lindsey Graham is reporting that, or saying that, there could be a nuclear attack on Charleston, South Carolina. It's like, how do you connect Syria, Iran, and Charleston, South Carolina?
Well, you know what?
How do you even go there?
Things have gotten so horrific, right? In the world of reality news, in the world of alternative media. If you're paying attention, you're horrified, right? So we literally could be staring at World War III in short order. And if the powers that be that are now so desperate and only have a 9 or 10% approval of their plan to go and bomb Syria, right? Most of the American people are now waking up. Most of the people, even if they can't tell you that John Kerry used to be part of... If they can't tell you John Kerry is a skull and bonesman, right, just like his buddy George W. Bush, if they can't articulate the things we're articulating, they still know their government is dishonest. They still know a war in Syria is bad for them and bad for their children. And it's gallows humor to laugh about it because it's gotten so damn scary.
Well, I have to laugh. I wasn't laughing about the situation, but I was laughing about Lindsey Graham connecting Charleston, South Carolina to Syria and Iran. How ridiculous is that? That is right. Laughter. That's just, it's off the chart.
It's absolutely ridiculous to think that Al-Qaeda could get their hands
could be supplied by Lindsey Graham.
Yeah. No, but you're absolutely right, because anybody that would possibly get their hands on one of these nuclear weapons, especially a portable one of any type, would certainly be getting them from a Western government, right? It's not as though Al-Qaeda is building these things in their basement. Look, I want to share with you guys before I turn it over to Rory for his headline in Doomer News. This one is, I think, the most important one that I've seen in maybe the last 48 hours. I used to be able to say in 2 weeks, but now it's information's moving so quickly. Zero Hedge is reporting that Poland confiscates half of private pensions to cut sovereign debt load. Here's why I think that this is so important. I want to give it some historical context. I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago, but a plane carrying the Polish president Lech Kaczyński and his top military and state leadership, 96 people in all, crashed, killing them all. That was the official story. If you have time, folks, go to YouTube and search the video that I posted at SGTBull07, and it's called this: Polish plane crash digitally enhanced. Proof humanity at war. Humanity is at war with the bankers, because what you have to understand about that plane crash is there is visual evidence that 96 people were not aboard. There is visual evidence of several survivors. There is visual evidence of men on the ground that day, a black ops team, killing those people. The man who shot that video was dead a week later. That video has caused 25 to 50% of the Polish public at large to question the official story. So when we see a new government in Poland now confiscating half of private pension funds to cut sovereign debt load, we must ask, what did Polish President Lech Kaczyński stand for? Well, he stood for not joining the euro. He stood against the Rothschild banking empire. I urge you to go back and search for that video, Polish plane crash digitally enhanced, proof humanity at war with the banksters. And then you'll fully understand what we're up against. Your response, gentlemen?
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with that story, but I can assure you that I will be when this call ends, because that is horrifying to think that they would stage. Well, it's yet another staged event by the bankster-run governments around the world, and it's not surprising. I'll say it that way.
Well, it's very horrifying. Rory, what do you have? For us in the land of Doomer News?
Well, our illustrious president, who has embarrassed us on numerous occasions just in the last 90 days, continues to do so. And the president of Brazil just today announced that, this is the headline: U.S. trip depends on Obama's response, Rousseff. This is from the BRICS Post. which I really like a lot. I like their information a lot. And this is a quote from President Roosevelt. My trip to Washington depends on the political conditions to be created by President Obama. And what she is referring to is the NSA spying. She wants to know why he's been spying, why and who has been spied upon. And there's a private meeting that was scheduled several months ago between her and Obama to discuss foreign relations and trade alliances. And she's now saying, I'll come, but I'm not going to come unless you do what you said you were going to do, which is tell us who you've been spying on and why you've been spying on us. And which that ties into, I want to tie it into the trip that he took back in June to South Africa. When he went to South Africa, this is just yet another embarrassment, like I said, within the last 90 days on the global stage. And he requested an audience with the African National Congress. The African National Congress said, and I quote, they described the request as nothing but, quote, a cynical publicity stunt, and denied his request. It's just amazing to me how he can continue to put himself out there and give us, Peter, Sean, Rory, the rest of the American citizens, to continually get these black eyes because of his ignorance and his arrogance towards not only the citizenry of this country, but the citizenry of the world, to say, you guys are all stupid and I'll do whatever I want to. And if I want to bomb Syria, I'll bomb Syria. If I want to spy on you and collect all your data, then I'm going to, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, look, so, I think this looks like the fall of the Russian Empire, right? This looks like the fall of Ceausescu. This looks like the fall of every corrupt government that has come before this one, and this one's getting ready to fall as well. And it's really a blessing to the world at this point that this corrupt leader and this corrupt government is being exposed. Nobody wants to come meet with him, Rory.
No.
World leaders keep canceling visits to sit down with Obama because nobody respects him, nobody respects this administration, nobody respects this government, including the people on the right like McCain and Lindsey Graham. Thank God we have people in there like Ted Cruz, like Rand Paul. You know, thank God we have people that are willing to speak truth to power, like Representative Grayson. There are good people now speaking out. And, you know, thank God 90% of the American public is against this war in Syria, because I think the rest of the world can see what's going on here now. And just like we didn't hate the Russian people when Russia was our sworn enemy, just like we don't hate the Iranian people, although our media tells us Iran is our enemy, I don't think the rest of the world hates the American people quite as much as they hate our government. Just like we dislike our government for removing itself from the bounds of the Constitution.
Well, I mean, when are they going to stop with the lying and stop with the garbage that continually spills from their mouths? And you cited McCain and Kerry and Graham. I mean, these are people that go out to the rest of the world and represent you and I, and I'm sick of it. Well, and I believe that the American people are too.
They're bought and paid for. Let me say this before we turn it over to Peter, who I know wants to cover some of the NSA news. We've got about 8 minutes here. Let me say this. As it pertains to people like McCain and Graham and John Kerry, it's very, very clear that they're not serving the American people or the Constitution, right? Now, right. When John Kerry was asked by Rand Paul in the hearings about Syria just the other day, Rand Paul went on for about 5 minutes giving background about how this can't possibly be good for the United States. And he wanted John Kerry to justify how an attack on Syria would be a benefit to the security and safety of the people of the United States. John Kerry finally looked up from his piece of paper and his pen after ignoring Rand Paul and not making eye contact, looked at Rand Paul, and began for the next 90 seconds to talk about Israel, the state of Israel, the people of Israel, and the safety and security of Israel. Now, you have to ask yourself, who are these people serving? Because it is not the Constitution. We've already established that. It appears not to be the people of the United States or the United States itself. It appears to me that these people are taking marching orders from somebody or somewhere else.
And to add to that, Sean, if anybody had any doubt if there's any difference these days between Republican and Democrat, I mean, just look at this past 2 weeks. I mean, Boehner, where is he standing up against the president? McCain, there's no difference between the two of them. Do you have these precious few people like the Rand Pauls and the Graysons and the Justin Amashas? But, there's very few people like that.
Yeah, precious few. And when people lose confidence in their leaders, when the world loses confidence in these leaders and in the fiat dollar, well, Bill Fleckenstein over at King World News in an interview got it right, and he says, as the fantasy dies, panic will ensue and gold will soar. Peter, before we lose you, what do you have for Doomer News headlines?
Yeah, mine comes from End the Lie, Madison Rupert's website, and we just posted this yesterday, actually, and the headline is NSA and GCHQ, that's the UK's version of NSA, crack encryption covertly influence companies, consider ordinary Americans adversaries. And I'll just read the first couple sentences where it says, the NSA and UK's GKHQ are undermining all internet privacy and security, going far beyond even what was previously revealed. In the latest top-secret documents revealed by Edward Snowden, it is also revealed that the agencies consider ordinary citizens adversaries. And I just find that just very frightening that, we are the bad guys, not Al-Qaeda. No, Al-Qaeda's the good guys,
It's stunning, right? And I think it's contributing to the awakening of the American public. As I said, even the ones that may not be able to articulate that the Federal Reserve is a privately owned banking cartel organization, even the ones that may not be able to articulate what a false flag is and how governments have used false flag acts of terror historically to benefit themselves and blame their enemies. Even those who can't articulate what the CIA is, who founded it, and who it benefits, right? People are waking up.
Some are, but when this whole NSA thing broke at the beginning of the summer, I remember we posted this article from InfoWars, a Kurt Nimmo article about how most Americans don't even like the Fourth Amendment anymore, and they're cool with the NSA spying on us. This said something, a majority of Americans, 56%, said that it's fine for the NSA to track the phone records of Americans. And how many times have you seen people over this past few months who will get on TV or whatever and they'll say, oh yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't have anything to hide. Well, that's not the point. The point is, under our Fourth Amendment, they don't have any rights to be searching all of our stuff unless we've done a crime. We haven't done any crimes.
That's right. Well, and if they understood how the NSA was using this information, right, we know from Russell Tice, a whistleblower from the NSA, that the NSA is using this type of information as blackmail against politicians, against judges, right, against those who might be pro-Constitution, anti-bankster bailout. That's how the information's being used, and sadly the people you're referring to just have no idea because they're not paying attention, and they really don't care much about the Constitution, Bill of Rights, or our history. Fortunately, at least 10% of us, and maybe 90% if you look at the Syrian war polls, but at least 10% of us, 20% of us, 40% of us, a large body of this country really truly does care about the Constitution, really does care about the founders and the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, and Sean, you talked about the history there. I mean, I just think back to the founding fathers, Washington and Jefferson, Adams, Franklin, Hamilton, people like that. Could you imagine them after winning the Revolutionary War and winning freedom from government tyranny, all of a sudden setting up a spy network to read everybody's mail and to find out what everybody's saying at the marketplace? I mean, they could not believe what would be going on in the country that they sacrificed so much to give us.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And Michael Snyder of Economic Collapse blog asks, who is going to buy our debt if this war in Syria causes China, Russia, and the rest of the world to turn on us? And I think the point is, Peter, is that all of this unconstitutional spying, all of this totalitarian apparatus, this authoritarian rule that they've implemented post 9/11 will fall when the dollar falls, right? And it's inevitable. It will happen. I don't know if it will be in the next month or the next year or the next 3 years, but it's going to happen. And the powers that be can't stop it. And at that point, how can they possibly pay for all of this infrastructure?
Yeah, you got it.
They cannot.
Well, guys, thanks so much for your time. And thanks to all of you for tuning in to another episode of Doomer News, where real news meets reality. And if you want more real news 24/7, please visit us over at sgtreport.com and check out thelibertymill.com, where real news cuts through the clutter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Rory and Peter, thank you so much for all you do as well.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. All right, love you guys. Hug your kids, love your families, and stand up for truth, stand up for the Constitution, and call your senators, call your congressmen, and tell them hell no to war in Syria. The people are fed up.
Called them all yesterday.
Good man. All right, thanks for watching, guys.